the war between Russia and Ukraine goes far beyond mere geographical and political dispute. The conflict, now 2 years long, has become a true showcase of military powers. While Ukraine remains devastated, Russia and NATO use the extreme context to test unprecedented weapons of war. Dominant nations monitor the advancement of information technology, turning satellites into war instruments. What are the new Russian weapons? What are the actual risks they pose to humanity? Earth Echoes delves into the realm of lucrative arms industries. In this obscure scenario, culprits and victims blur in the race for power. In the end, we are all responsible. The war against Ukraine is considered the most violent armed conflict on European soil since the end of World War II. The Russian invasion marks the end of the post-Cold War era and the beginning of a new reconfiguration of major powers. Within this warlike context, the pieces of this political puzzle assume new strategies and positions. NATO seeks spaces to advance into Eastern Europe, while Russia breaks ties with Europe, finding shelter under the Chinese umbrella. In this aggressive environment, new alliances are formed and previously neutral countries now take sides. Tensions that were once veiled are now displayed on the open stage of battles. The truth is that wars do not erupt overnight. Small movements and daily decisions herald the gradual escalation of major conflicts. Like in a game of chess, victory doesn't always come by the death of the queen. Often, wars are won by the accumulation of small triumphs, leaving the enemy with no alternatives. Since the dissolution of the Soviet Union, NATO has incorporated 13 Eastern European countries. The organization led by the United States represents a political and military defense that ensures security to member countries. The accession of Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia adds to the pieces of Western victories over the last 3 decades. The latest major move occurred in 2023, with Finland joining as the 31st NATO member. The country shares a border of over 1,000 kilometers with Russia, ensuring a strategic position for the USA. Imagine if your enemy bought land in front of your house. For Western countries, this is a legitimate self-defense decision. However, for the Russians, the maneuver is seen as a true military encirclement. With Finland's accession, Putin now only relies on Sweden as an exit route through the north. The possible accession of Ukraine to the organization would completely close the circle, leaving Russia cornered. This was one of the main reasons that led Putin to invade Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Even with Ukraine's appeal, the West does not take risks and understands the magnitude of the problem. The message is clear. Acceptance would place the United States and Russia in direct confrontation once again in history. It would be the Third World War. In comparative terms, Ukraine wouldn't stand a chance alone. In 2021, Ukraine's military budget was $4.1 billion compared to Russia's $45 billion. The secret of Ukrainian resistance lies in the military supplies provided by major Western powers. Even though Ukraine is not a NATO member, the country is seen as a crucial strategic ally. The US Congress has already approved over 110 billion euros for the country since the Russian invasion. Meanwhile, the European Union has quadrupled the budget for training Ukrainian soldiers. Military spending has exceeded €255 million since the conflict began. While Russian military invests in long-range attack systems, allies provide Ukrainians with anti-aircraft weapons. The new battles include cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and even drones. The small aerial vehicles, in fact, play a crucial role in the confrontation. Russia uses sophisticated Shahed 136 drones, known as kamikaze, with high destructive power, while Ukrainians rely on the Bayraktar TB2, which can perform strikes and be armed with laser-guided bombs. These new instruments of war enable decision-making from a distance, without the need to move troops. Thus, the future of modern conflicts is being shaped in history. As technology advances, a new era of contest unfolds, in a true electronic warfare. The parity in technological and military levels led Ukraine to reclaim about 54% of the occupied territory. Russia now controls about 18% of Ukrainian areas, mainly the regions of Donbass and Crimea. With the prolongation of the conflict, the war entered a period of stalemate. Western investments become increasingly scarce, and Russia shows no signs of resolution. It is precisely in this window of fatigue that new Russian threats emerge on the scene and could turn the tide of war. Debris recovered after an attack in Kiev point to the use of a hypersonic missile that could redefine the conflict. If the analysis of the materials is confirmed, this will be the first time Russia uses such a magnitude artifact in the confrontation. Dubbed Zircon, the superfast and destructive missile is one of the most powerful in the Russian fleet. The weapon is an anti-ship cruise missile, designed to travel long distances and destroy both sea and land targets. Its hypersonic speed makes it invulnerable even to the best missile defenses, like the MIM-104 Patriot of the United States. According to the Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance, the Zircon speed is estimated at Mach 8, or nearly 10,000 kilometers per hour. To give an idea of comparison, a jet rarely reaches the 1 Mach mark. If this information is accurate, Zircon would be the fastest in the world, making it almost impossible to stop. The missile also stands out for another valuable and peculiar characteristic, explained by a plasma cloud. During flight, the instrument is covered by a cloud that absorbs radio frequency rays, making the weapon invisible to radars. The Russian threat, however, is not limited to land, skies, and seas. U.S. intelligence agencies speculate that Russia is now working on a new type of anti-satellite weapon. Before the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Russia conducted a series of secret launches into space. Now, a new launch may be underway, threatening the thousands of satellites that keep the world connected. The intention would be to put a nuclear weapon into orbit, which would function as a kind of time bomb. Analysts point out that a space detonation would lead to a global communication failure, interrupting various essential services on Earth. Debris from the explosion would spread throughout low orbit, making navigation difficult, if not impossible. Even if the weapon does not pose a direct danger to humans, the damage would be immeasurable. The explosion of a single satellite in the GPS network would disrupt radar, telephony, and nearly all cell phone location services. Starlink satellites used for internet communications, and even spy satellites would also be affected. The scenario resembles science fiction stories or James Bond movies. However, military experts have long warned that space will likely be the next frontier of wars. In an increasingly technology-dependent world, the threat to communication would be the most powerful weapon in the world. Russia and the United States are by far the largest nuclear powers on the planet. Together, their arsenals hold about 90% of the world's nuclear weapons. Since the 1960s, the US, Russia, and China have had the capability to attack satellites worldwide. To control this power, the three countries signed the Outer Space Treaty, which prohibits the deployment of nuclear weapons into Earth's orbit. However, the promise does not offer any guarantee of security in the current geopolitical climate. Russia accuses the United States of fabricating the threat to get Congress to approve sending more investments to Ukraine. Historian Stephen Kotkin argues that the time to win the war has passed, and now peace must be achieved. The ideal time for negotiations will be after the U.S. presidential elections in November 2024. The assessment is that the conflict should end with a division of Ukraine, as happened with Korea. And meanwhile, profits of the arms industry soar, benefiting greatly from conflicts. In 2023, U.S. arms exports increased by over 14%, while NATO imports grew by 65%. Projections indicate that Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and Northrop Grumman stocks are to rise between 5% and 7% over the next 12 months. On the other hand, much of Russia's wealth comes from oil sales. Additionally, the country partners with China, which trails only the U.S. in military spending. In 2023, China invested around $219 billion in weapons, posing a threat to U.S. hegemony. Thus, war is also used as a stage to showcase each nation's military might. Amidst this, innocent lives are lost, and everyone bears their share of responsibility. Earth echoes through the advancement of globalized technology. Its quality of use depends solely on humanity. If you enjoyed this content, leave your comment. Don't forget to like and share the video. See you in the next battlefield.